Not gonna lie, I really did not like the dark tone that the DCEU took, and especially Zack Snyder's take on Superman. So when I saw the trailers for this movie, I welcomed it with open arms. It had a brighter tone and brighter colors and brighter everything. It seemed like it was going to be a hopeful Superman again. Superman would finally go back to his roots of being a character that inspires hope and symbolizes a better tomorrow. And when I watched the film, I was not disappointed at all. In fact, I loved it. It got better the second time I watched it as well. Of course, it's not without its flaws, but no movie is perfect. And while I don't think this is the definitive Superman, this is definitely a Superman that I want to see more of in the future. And I don't want this video just to be me bashing on the Snyderverse, because there are legitimately good things about it. But this Superman and this Superman are not the same character, and one is definitely better than the other. Where James Gunn's Superman succeeds, Zack Snyder's Superman fails. This is the most human Superman that we've ever seen on screen, and I think that's actually a very good thing. Superman, yes, is very, very strong, but he's not a god. Superman is first and foremost a Kansas farm boy who just so happens to be an alien. He's not alien first, he's human first.
We wanted you to learn what it meant to be human first. So that one day, when the time was right, you could be the bridge between two people.
This is a very, very important distinction. Even though Zack and Chris Nolan wrote that into Man of Steel, they still don't seem to understand the character of Superman. Superman is not an alien cosplaying as a human. He grew up as a human. And only later in life did he come to terms with his alien heritage, and he became Superman. There's like a cognitive dissonance when it comes to Zack Snyder's Superman. Because on one hand, you have the hopeful element, or at least it's said and not shown.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Here, it's an S.
I mean, at least it's there. But then on the other hand, you have this quote-unquote hopeful Superman causing 80,000 9/11s in one metropolis. He saves like one or two people, but is only remorseful when he kills General Zod. It's completely backwards. And mind you, there is never an established scene where he's like, man, I really don't like killing people. Like that's never been an issue for Man of Steel Superman. So I have no idea why he's all of a sudden remorseful that he killed somebody. That was the briefest possible thing I could have said on the Snyderverse. It has a ton of flaws that I really don't want to get into right now. I want to get into Superman 2025, but before I can get into that, I want to talk about its director, James Gunn, and what led up to him directing this new movie. James Gunn directed a movie. No. It was actually a couple movies. Darn it, I forgot the name. Oh, it's James Gunn directed the entire Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy for Marvel Studios. In fact, I'm pretty sure he had sole writing credit on the third film. However, tragedy struck because in between the second and third film, he was actually fired from Disney over some fairly edgy tweets.
3-year-old was peeing on my head.
Of course, he did end up apologizing for those. But in that short window of time, when he was away from Marvel, Warner Brothers approached him and asked him to direct a sequel to Suicide Squad. And it was pretty freaking good. And after the third Guardians film, he had left Marvel and became the head of DC Studios. I loved this movie. Superman is a 9 out of 10. It's close to being perfect. However, there are some flaws, and I'll get through those fairly quickly. I feel like the film is very fast-paced, but also slow at the same time. There is a lot packed into this film. By no means am I saying that it's boring or too fast. Honestly, I think this film would have actually benefited from being 2.5 hours long. But complaining that a movie is too short, I think is actually a very good thing to say about a movie. I do feel like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl were not given a lot of time to shine in this film, especially compared to Mr. Terrific, which, by the way, is a fantastic character. Who knows, maybe they'll be given their due in the upcoming Peacemaker Season 2. Now on to the man himself. I think David Cornsweet actually does a very, very good job with Superman. He looks like Superman, he sounds like Superman, and what's most important is that he acts like Superman. This is a very, very believable Superman. Surprisingly, in a less grounded universe, this is a more grounded Superman. I think James Gunn did an excellent job writing the character of Superman, especially in the aftermath of Man of Steel. Nicholas Hoult does a freaking fantastic job as Lex Luthor. I, throughout the entire film, just hated him. And that's a really good thing to say about a villain. You want your villain to be hateable. We love to hate villains. I think everybody can say that. And Lex Luthor in this film is, oh my gosh, he is the worst. I think a couple of my friends that I saw the film with were saying that if Lex Luthor is hating this much, how bad is Reverse Flash going to be in the future?
Remember when you were making out with your first girlfriend?
But in all seriousness, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I believe that Superman is a subversion of the evil Superman trend. And I think I know this because of two plot points in the film. The first one being Superman's biological parents. It turns out they sent Superman to rule over the Earth and to take as many wives as he can and continue Krypton's legacy. Essentially, Viltrumites from Invincible, right? Maybe. Then there's Ultraman, a clone of Superman who's pretty dumb and honestly has a fist for a brain. He follows Lex Luthor's orders, but then eventually he dies. I think this is very symbolic of what James Gunn is trying to communicate here. With shows like Invincible and The Boys, and I guess the movie Brightburn, it's trying to show that this concept of an evil Superman is, I guess, more interesting, or at least more realistic than regular Superman. And I think what James Gunn is trying to do with this film is reclaim the idea of the good-natured Boy Scout of Superman. It's made very clear when Superman is at his parents' house. He's talking with Pa Kent, and Pa Kent says, "Parents aren't for telling their kids who they're supposed to be. They're for giving you the tools that you need to make fools of yourselves on your own. Your choices, your actions, make you who you are." This is when Kal-El realizes that despite the circumstances of his birth, despite what his true mission was supposed to be on Earth, his choices and his actions are what actually make him who he is. And he chooses to be Superman. And he, unlike his Kryptonian parents, sees the beauty in everyone and everything. It's funny because this is sparked in a conversation earlier in the film where Lois calls herself a punk rock kid from Bakerline, and Superman says, "Well, I'm punk rock." And Lois disagrees with him. But then later she says, "You see everyone and everything as beautiful." And Superman says, "Maybe that's the real punk rock." What this movie does exceptionally right is that it inspires hope. And I think any good Superman movie is supposed to do that. I believe, and I've seen this, it has a positive impact on people. It makes people want to go out and be better. Thank God for this movie, if that's the case.
They've always been wrong about me. Well, I'm a punk rocker, yes I am. I love. 'Cause I'm a punk rocker. I get scared. But that is being human. Well, I'm a punk rocker, yes I am. And that's my greatest strength.